Hello, people. Good to see you once again. My name remains Chioma Chukwubuike, your host on this awesome book review channel. So I am glad to announce to you that today we kickstart the review of our first book. I'd like to encourage us to stay glued to this journey because it's going to be very educative as well as entertaining. So let's get right into it. The first book we shall be reviewing is titled The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's written by Stephen R. Covey. Trust me, this book is really interesting. I read it earlier this year and it really taught me a lot of things. I mean, things that I wouldn't have known like on my own by trying to go through life by my own experience. You get, that's the reason why reading is very, very highly recommended for people. You will have to pardon me because I really did a proper review on this book. So I made some notes. So I'll be reading from it, once in a while as we discuss. You get, so just let's go. I'll start by saying that, for every human being, there is a need for personal effectiveness and, for healthy relationship with other people. I wrote it down. That's why I'm having to look at my book. So, but first of all, this desires, these needs, they first show up as a problem. So you cannot get your job done on time. That's a problem. You cannot stick to schedules. That's a problem. You realize that you set targets for yourself. You cannot hit them. You also realize that you cannot work with people. That's a problem. The definition of effectiveness, the simplest definition I can wrap around my head now is when something produces the desired results, that is when that thing can be referred to as being effective. So if your life is giving you the desired result, it means your life is effective. You understand what I'm trying to say? So we are on a journey to learn how to become more effective in life. So let's do this together. So be it in business, be it in parenting, be it in whatever area of life. For people who have been successful in these areas, they live by certain principles and certain life codes. I'd like to read for us a quote written by Aristotle in this book. It says, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." What is a habit? The day-to-day things that we do, the things we do on a daily basis, they are our habits. Do you understand? So if we must be effective, we must first change ourselves. Before you can refer to a thing as a habit, you have to have a knowledge about it, you have to have the skill, and you have to desire to do it. So assuming that I say swimming is a habit, I have to know that there's such a thing as swimming. I have to know how to swim, and I have to want to swim. So that's the knowledge, the what to do, the how to do, and the want to do. So these things make up what we call a habit. So as seen in the diagram on the screen, if a certain activity hits these 3 things we've mentioned, the knowledge, the skill, and the desire, that is only when we can refer to that thing as a habit. And to effectively change other people, we must first of all change our perspective about them. That's the only way that this change can actually begin to take place. It's not a quick fix. It's a long-term thing, but we have to start sowing those seeds now. So have you ever met people who try to change things or change situations by the use of manipulation? Or those people, they don't stay effective for long, because by the time people realize that you are manipulating situations and things, they will just stay away from you. And an effective person is known by how much of themselves they are in charge of, and how much of other people they can be in charge of. People don't want people who manipulate them to be in charge of them. So I would like to read us something, that talks about manipulation from a part of this book. It says, "If I try to use human influence strategies and tactics of how to get other people to do what I want, to work better, to be more motivated, to like me and each other, while my character is fundamentally flawed, marked by duplicity and insincerity, then in the long run, I cannot be successful. My duplicity will breed distrust, and everything I do, even using so-called good human relations techniques, will be perceived as manipulative. It simply makes no difference how good the rhetoric is, or even how good the intentions are. If there's little or no trust, there is no foundation for permanent success. Only basic goodness gives life to technique. So manipulation is a no-no. It's a no-no. Nobody should resort to manipulation to try to be effective. There's a popular saying, by someone I respect so much. It says, you can deceive some of the people all the time. You can deceive all the people some of the time, but you cannot deceive all the people all the time. So no to manipulations. So down to the business of the day, let's list our seven habits. I know you are excited to know what they are. So I'll just put them on the screen so that we can do this together. So the first habit is be proactive. Habit number 2, begin with the end in mind. Habit number 3, put first things first. Habit number 4, think win-win. Habit number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Habit number 6, synergize. And habit number 7 at the edge of the diagram is sharpen the sword. So I'd like to walk us through, a little bit of explanation about the diagram. So it's still there on the screen, so we are on the same page. So before you achieve habits 1, 2, and 3, you are in the state of dependence. So below habit 1, 2, 3, you see you are dependent. And habit 1, 2, 3 is referred to as the private victory. Before you can conquer others, you have to conquer yourself. So that's why you have to win privately before you can proceed to winning publicly. That's what the other, habits. That's why they are categorized as public victory, because it involves other people. So I cannot lead other people if I cannot lead myself. So after you have, conquered habit 1, 2, and 3, you've now graduated from dependence on other people to lead you to independence. Now you can lead yourself. Then we proceed to habit 4, 5, 6. That's the public victory because it involves, other people. That's like people relation. Do you understand? So after you have achieved the public victory, you now become interdependent. There's so much that we can all achieve when we come together. If you want to fly high, like if you want to go far, you don't go alone. Check out the big companies we have, in existence now. We know the faces of the company, Elon Musk, Jack Ma, Steve Jobs. But these people have key players. They have people that they cannot do without in this company. That is where they are. They are the level of interdependence with other people. Then, sharpen the saws, how to get everything to, work. We're going to see what all these things entail as we go deeper into the book. So before we proceed into discussing about these habits, I'd like to, remind us that life is about balance, and that is what the author referred to as P/PC balance, which is production and production capability. So for you to actually produce good results, you producing the results have to be okay. So for people who work, for me, I try to explain this as having a balanced life. So I cannot be effective on my job if I'm neglecting the health of my body. I have to be healthy to be able to produce, the desired results. So for me to have good results, I have to stay healthy. And for me to stay healthy and, mentally okay, I have to produce results. So everything is supposed to be, balanced. I cannot pay attention to the results and forget about my body. Neither can I do that to my body and forget about the result. So before I commence habit 1, I'd like to read towards the opening quote of the chapter. It says, I know of no more encouraging fact than the unquestionable ability of man to elevate his life by conscious endeavor. Written by Henry David Thoreau. So we know habit one is being proactive. And what does it mean to be proactive? I penned it down here. I said creating or controlling a situation rather than just responding to it after it has happened. So in simple terms, it means acting before you are acted upon. So humans have the ability of self-awareness, and this sets us apart from animals. So the ability to know what we want and why we want it, keeps us unique, makes us unique creations. So when we become self-aware, external factors cease to matter. So I decide how I want to react to certain situations. I wrote those things down. I decide how I want to react. And then the author gave us a story about a man, whose family was killed in the Holocaust in Nazi Germany. So they watched people who were murdered every day through terrible means, by terrible ways. So he realized that there was a way he could determine how the things happening around him could affect him, could affect him inside. Do you understand me? Which will lead us to talking about stimuli and response. There's a time frame between what happens to me and how I respond to it. So within that time frame of stimuli and response is my decision as to how I decide my response to be. So I'm supposed to determine the outcome of things. That is being proactive. So someone splashes water on me intentionally or not, I decide how I want to respond. The power is not given to that person to decide how I respond, because that person is an external factor. I decide how I'm supposed to respond. When we understand these things, we can change tides in our favor, because the power to change the situation actually lies in our own hands. Up on the screen now is the diagram for the stimuli and response. So it just says the same very simple diagram as we can see. So I wrote down here, I said our behavior is a product of our own conscious choices. So and I would like to read something written here also by the author. He said, because we are by nature proactive, if our lives are a function of conditioning and conditions, it is because we have, by conscious decision or by default, chosen to empower those things to control us, and which is not supposed to be. So just as we have proactiveness or proactive people, we have reactive people. And obviously, reactive is the opposite of proactive. I'd like to read us something again. This is the book we're reviewing, so stay with me. So in making such a choice, the choice of allowing the condition and the conditioning to affect us, said we become reactive. Reactive people are often affected by their physical environment. If the weather is good, they feel good. If it isn't, it affects their attitude and their performance. Proactive people can carry their own weather with them. Proactive people are not touched by weather feelings. They are value-focused people. So whether it rains or shines, it makes no difference to them. They are value-driven. And if their value is to produce, good quality work, it isn't a function of whether the weather is conducive or not. In fact, reactive people are complainers. And now bear in mind that proactive people are also affected by rain is falling. It falls on all of us. But proactive people, because they are not affected by it, let me read something here. It says, proactive people are still influenced by external stimuli, whether physical, social, or psychological, but their response to stimuli, conscious or unconscious, is value-based choice or response. So it is based on their value. What do I want to achieve? How do I want to achieve it? Is the rain supposed to stop me? Is the cold supposed to stop me? Is the heat supposed to stop me? Is a terrible person supposed to stop me? No. Value-based people are not stopped by weather. You get? So we need to identify where we are and try to move. So it says again here, it says our basic nature is to act and not be acted upon, as well as enabling us to choose our response to particular circumstances. This empowers us to create circumstance. So like I mentioned earlier, I said we determine the outcome of things by our response. So taking initiative does not mean being pushy, obnoxious, or aggressive. It does mean recognizing our responsibility to make things happen. We are supposed to be in charge. We are supposed to be, making things happen. Things shouldn't happen to us. Let's make them happen. Do we understand? So we have to start living consciously and not to be acted upon. So as we have, established that proactive people are value-based and reactive people are complaint-based. So I'd like to talk to us about or read to us the language of the reactive people and the proactive people. So a reactive person says, there's nothing I can do. A proactive person says, let's look at our alternatives. A reactive person says, that's just the way I am. A proactive person says, I can choose a different approach. A reactive person says, he makes me so mad. A proactive person says, I can control my feelings. I mean, the list is endless. We decide these things. We ought to want to decide these things. We should decide the outcome of our events. Now, all of that being said, it is not everything that we can actually decide the outcome. So that will take us to circle of concern and circle of influence. For the things that we can decide their outcome, we should focus on those things. And for the things that we cannot control, we should let them be. Reactive people focus on their concerns. Proactive people focus on their influence. So it is, you see where the strength and the weakness lies. So reactive people focus on their weakness, the things they cannot control. Proactive people say, okay, let me look at my strengths. There's something I can do here. Forgetting the things I cannot do nothing about, and focus on the things that I can surely do something about. So I'd like for us to read something here. It says, proactive people focus their efforts in the circle of influence, like we said earlier. They work on the things they can do something about. The nature of their energy is positive, enlarging and magnifying, causing their circle of influence to increase. I'll be putting up the proactive focus diagram and the reactive focus diagram. So we see that the proactive people focus on expanding their circle of influence, and the reactive people are concentrating on their circle of concern. This is happening, that is happening, what do I do? The government is not working. But for God's sakes, there are things I can control. I should focus on those things. Said reactive people, on the other hand, focus all their efforts on their circle of concern. They focus on the weakness of other people, the problem of the environment, the circumstances over which they have no control, and these things are not at all important. So I penned something down here, and it says, as long as we are working in our circle of concern, we empower the things within it to control us. So we are not supposed to do that. By the time we pay attention to the things that we have no power over, we have no control over, we are just building negative energy. So there are things that which we have direct control, indirect control, and no control. Direct control, I can do something about it. Indirect control, it has to be other people. No control, I should just accept it and be happy that, man, I should focus on my life and not bother myself about the things that I cannot control. I mean, that's a good way to live. When we change the formula, I like this statement a lot. When we change the formula, we change the outcome of the result. So we change our response, like we talked about, what are my response to certain situations? When I change that, when I change things I focus my energy on, I change the situation of things. There was a story told about two brothers who were sons of a drunkard. And so one said, I'm a drunkard because my father is a drunkard. And the other said, I am successful and not a drunkard because my father is a drunkard. So we determine how the situation around us influences us. That is being proactive. You act before you are acted upon. We are also talking about how we can be effective leaders of ourselves and leaders of other people. And for you to be able to lead other people, you cannot impose you on them. You have to give them what they want. People want to be heard. People want to air their views. People want to feel important. By the time you are, forcing yourself on them, nobody wants to be with a tyrant. For anybody under a tyrant government and under a tyrant leadership, it is because there's nothing they can do about it. Given an option, they flee immediately. So if you want to be able to be a good leader, you have to give people what they want. That is how to lead people. That's how to be effective in your own life and in the lives of other people. So you are trying to get your child to want to do well in school, and all you are, telling him is how he's embarrassed you in public, how you cannot proudly talk in front of other parents simply because he's not doing well in school. You focus on the things that attack his ego, his person. Some parents even go as far as wanting their children to become things they are not. Sometimes these kids want to be heard. They want you to hear from them. Okay, I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a musician. I want to be something else. But you need to hear people, hear what they want and give them what they want. That's how you can get the best out of them. And that's only how you can be effective in their lives. So proactive and influential people also are people who make commitments and keep commitments. So I wrote something, it said proactive and influential people make and keep commitments and promises. The commitments we make to ourselves and to others, and that is how integrity is built. So I make a promise to myself to say every day I jog for 40 minutes before I go to work, and I'm not keeping it. I'm not even building integrity with myself. How can I build it with other people? How can I get them to trust me that if I say I'll be at a place by 5:30 p.m. or a.m., I'll make it? You get? So effective people are people who can be trusted. If I cannot trust you, you are not effective to me. You get? So as we come to a close of habit 1, I believe that we've learned a lot of things. The author advised us to take a 30-day test. Write out the things that you would like to achieve or you'd like to change in your life. We're still in the section of private victory. So we have to deal with ourselves first. So write out the things that you would want to achieve for yourself. Routines. Is it, exercise routines? Is it eating habits? Write these things out and see how you can be faithful to them in the next 30 days. It is really going to be helpful. I bet you it's going to be very, very helpful. So let's remember the things that habit 1 taught us. Act first before you are acted upon. Think of your response to everything before it even happens. You get? So you determine your response. You don't just wait for it to happen before you decide what to do. You are not supposed to let the external conditions affect your decisions. You ought to change your language. So let us see how we can practice these things and be faithful to them and see how our lives will take a sharp turn. Yeah.